Hey everybody, it's Joric. Welcome back. I hope you're doing great wherever you are in the world. Today I'm going to make this video about those of you looking for property in Portugal, whether you're going to buy or you're thinking about renting. There's a couple of things that I believe that you should be thinking about and asking questions of the landlord, the seller, the real estate agent, just to make sure that you have an understanding of what type of property you're getting into and you don't get caught off guard with any gotchas or uh-ohs when you're into the rental phase or you have purchased a property. So those two things I want to talk about are mold and asbestos. So first off, let's get to if you're going to rent something. Many places in Portugal, all of the people that we met that were expats from different countries, whether they be African countries, Middle Eastern countries, other parts of Europe, North America, all had in their facility, in their flat, or if they did own rent a single family type home, they had dehumidifying units, either in the bathroom or running in different parts of the flat, often 24 hours a day, especially in the rainy season. So October through April, May, they were running all the time. And the reason why is just the proximity of where Portugal is. You know, you're right off the Atlantic, you have lots of water, humidity, and you're going to deal with mold. That is something that is almost a way of life. If you look at some of the top medical issues across Portugal, and it's not Portugal alone, many countries have this. Respiratory issues relating to mold is something that is fairly common. And in talking to a couple of people that we live near who are nurses, they said it's just mold, especially in older flats, like the ones that in older buildings like we were in, it's just commonplace. So having a dehumidifier is as common as having maybe a refrigerator. It's just something that you're going to have. I will say, if you're looking at renting a property, I don't care where it is in Portugal, the mainland, the islands, I would look at Wharton. There are other places too that have that sell little mini dehumidifying units. If you have a large flat, you might need a couple of them, but just one that can be after you take a shower or a bath in the bathroom that you turn on for 45 minutes to an hour to help get rid of some of that moisture. It is something when you're renting a property, I would ask, is there mold here? Has there been mold there? Can the landlord or the real estate agent identify for you or help prove that there hasn't been any mold? And I would highly suggest, if you're unable to view the property, many of you are renting from abroad and you're not seeing it in person before you get a rental contract, I would ask them to take video of underneath the sink in the bathroom, underneath the sink in the kitchen, the dishwashing area. Make videos of the lining of the walls, the edges of the walls. So as you're looking at my head right now, where the ceiling fan is, kind of the walls, just to see if there's any black substances, if there's any green substances that may be growing, because mold is commonplace. So it's something that I think you should really be thinking about. And if you have any type of respiratory issues, mold is something you got to be in the back of your head thinking about, whether you're renting or buying. If you're moving to Portugal for any length of time, you're going to have to deal with or help mitigate mold in some way. So if you're renting, definitely want to ask those questions before you sign any agreement. If you are going to view each of these properties, look in the cupboards, underneath the sinks, just to see if you can identify any mold. Look in the corners of the closets, up in the tops of the closets, just to see if there might be anything there. It's something that you want to be aware of. If you're buying property in Portugal, it's the same thing. You're going to want to make sure that you have identified. If you're going to look at the property, I hope you're not doing it sight unseen. You would be walking the property and seeing everything. Pay attention to that. It's one of the questions you're going to want to ask too, because you're going to want to see if there's mold there, how are you going to be able to get rid of it? And then it also will help to identify if you have air conditioning units and heating units, they might have a dehumidifying option on them, Or you might have to buy, let's say, a couple of dehumidifiers that can be mobile that you put in different parts of the flat, just to be able to make sure that you're reducing as much exposure as possible to mold. So whether you're renting or buying, mold is a way of life. It's something that you want to be aware of and try to minimize as much as you possibly can. The next piece is asbestos, and you may go, well, that hasn't been a thing since the 70s. There wouldn't be asbestos in any place that we'd be looking at. Well, that's not the case in Portugal. In fact, there was just a police department, one of the locations that they were remodeling, and they had asbestos and lead paint in them. So if you're renting, I would be asking a question, is there any asbestos? I would also add lead paint as well, found anywhere, especially if you have an older structure and you want to be, let's say, in the heart of Porto, the heart of Lisbon. You're going to most likely be in an older building that might have been built 100 years ago or more, might have been built up through the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And in that time, lead paint and asbestos were commonplace around the world. So that's something that you want to be aware of. But I wanted to make this video, if you're going to buy property, you may be bulldozing, meaning you're getting rid of everything in the flat and starting over. So any of the material you'd be using today obviously would not have lead or asbestos in it. But let's say you're going to buy a property and keep it as is. You like the older look and feel, and you're not going to rehab the project anytime soon. You may want to ask that question when you're entering into that negotiation to buy the property. Is there any asbestos anywhere? Is there any lead paint anywhere? Those are things that I think are very important when you're looking to buy a property in any country. I'm in the United States right now, lived in Portugal for 5 years. I'd be asking that if we were looking at an older property here in Phoenix, Arizona. There's a strong chance that anything that's, let's say, 45 years or older, an old house, let's say we wanted to buy and renovate, good chance that there might be lead paint in that house and asbestos. So it's just something that you want to ask the questions and be aware of, because you may be thinking you have never had to ask that question, or maybe it's been decades since you had to think about that. But mold is something that we had to combat in our apartment. It was a building from the 50s. There was some mold in the common area, the stairs. I don't know about other apartments if they had mold or not, but it is something that we had a little unit that we kept in our bathroom, ran it most of the day. And in the rainy season, we ran it 24/7. And usually once a day or every other day, this unit would be full of water. We'd dump it and keep it running, just again, to keep the moisture down in the property. So I wanted to make sure you were aware of that, because as more people are looking at properties right now, looking to rent or buy and move to Portugal, I think this is something that is fairly common. It's not a big deal. It is something that you need to ask though, and think about how you're going to remove or remediate or live with, depending on what you might find along the way. As always, thank you so much for taking time to watch the videos, and enjoy your travels.